Continuing from the previous episode 307. Chapter 1236. Finding trouble. The main aim of their trip this time around was the soul baby fruit. If there was no special circumstances, Xiao Yan also did not wish to create problems that could complicate the matter. However, there are some things that was impossible to avoid even if one wished to do so. Following the increasingly good relationship between the Heaven Demon Chinix tribe and the current Wind Lightning Pavilion, the latter had become increasingly arrogant. It had vaguely really think of itself as the big boss of the four pavilions. This time around, they had forcefully snatched the campsite that the Falling Star Pavilion had found beforehand. This was undoubtedly giving the Falling Star Pavilion a slap. If the Falling Star Pavilion chose to ignore this manner, it would definitely end up being a joke of others. It was necessary to endure and give in occasionally when establishing a sect. However, one must not be weak when it came to things related to principles. Otherwise, it would not only be a great blow to one's reputation but it would also cause the morale of the disciples within the sect to decline. Currently, Yao Lao was already the pavilion chief of the Falling Star Pavilion. Although Xiao Yan felt a little helpless at the title of junior chief that had inexplicably fell onto him, he naturally needed to be responsible now that the title had fallen onto him. This time around, Yao Lao and Feng Zun-Jie had given him the authority to lead the group on this trip. This was a kind of trust and test for him. If they were facing the Hall of Soul, a great being that was far stronger than the Falling Star Pavilion, they might only be able to endure for now and wait for the opportunity to take revenge in the future. However, in Xiao Yan's heart, the Wind Lightning Pavilion did not possess the qualification that could cause him to withdraw. When he had just arrived at the Central Plains back then, he had dared to challenge the Wind Lightning Pavilion with just the strength of a Do Huang. Even less needed to be said now. The strength of a mere Lei Zun-Jie was not even a match for Feng Zun-Jie. Forget about there being two people with the strength of a 3-star Do Zuns beside Xiao Yan. Even if he was to act personally, this Lei Zun-Jie would not be in a position to gain any advantage. This action by Xiao Yan had undoubtedly immediately won the support of all the young disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion, who were present. By being able to become the disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion, they were clearly not some useless people. Yet, they had suffered such humiliation in the hands of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Based on the impulsive character of these young people, it was likely that they would forcefully charge forward even though they knew that they were no match for their opponents. They would let everyone know that their Falling Star Pavilion was not some softy. If it was not because of the stern scolding by the two elders today, it was likely that they would have long since exchanged blows with the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Originally, they thought that there was nowhere for them to vent this anger. Unexpectedly, this junior chief, whom they felt a little unfamiliar with in their hearts, was this fiery hot the moment he appeared. In an instant, the position of Xiao Yan in the hearts of these young disciples had directly rose. At times, gaining the support of others was such a simple task. The two elders were startled in the face of this action by Xiao Yan. They hesitated for a moment and saw the bright red faces of the young disciples around them. That hidden demonic flame within their hearts also rose at this moment. Damn it, the Wind Lightning Pavilion had gave the Falling Star Pavilion a slap in front of so many experts. If they did not get back at them, it was likely that they would really lose all of these old faces of theirs. Although they were uncertain about the strength of Xiao Yan, they clearly understood the strength of Little Fairy Doctor, Tianhuo Zun-Jie and Shangzan behind. These three were genuine elite Do Zuns. What was just a mere Lei Zun-Jie worth? We will listen to Junior Chief's orders. The two elders cupped their hands together in a grave manner. After which, they waved their hands and took the lead to fly out. A large group of Falling Star Pavilion disciples followed closely behind. That rising murderous aura-like manner attracted quite a number of surprised gazes. There were quite a number of mountain peaks standing near the middle area of the Bone Mountain Range. Due to this place being close to the ancient remains that had appeared, these better locations were mostly occupied by some of the stronger factions. Some of those experts and small factions could only choose to find other places. The interior of the Bone Mountain Range was currently filled with human figures. Loud noises and curses continued to linger beside one's ears. Due to there being too many people and that this place was not managed by anyone, it had resulted in the Bone Mountain Range to be completely chaotic. It was extremely common for those present would summon their friends over some small matter and end up engaging in a big fight. There was one mountain amongst those near the middle area that was currently occupied by many figures. A large flag was dancing in the wind at the peak of the mountain. Wind Lightning Pavilion, 3 shiny silver large words, were present on it. Looking from a distance, the flag appeared quite domineering. One after another, snow-white tents stood on the top of the mountain. There were vaguely some long-drawn breaths being emitted from within the tents. Clearly, they belonged to some stronger experts. From the looks of it, the Wind Lightning Pavilion had activated quite a great amount of strength for this ancient remains. There was an exceptionally grand large tent located at the middle of the many tents. Quite a number of Wind Lightning Pavilion's experts were standing with cold, stern, cautious expressions outside of it. Some laughing voices were occasionally emitted from within the tent. Clamor. The cover at the entrance of the tent was suddenly pulled open and a silver-robed person with a scent of wine strutted out. Those surrounding guards hurriedly bowed and greeted upon seeing this. Northern Pavilion Chief. Yes. The silver-robed figure responded faintly. His appearance was that of the Wind Lightning Pavilion's Northern Pavilion Chief, Btth, who had chased Xiao Yan with the intention to kill the latter back then. There was not much change in him during these 2 of 3 years. However, his aura was vaguely becoming richer. There was a strange feeling of having half a foot into the next level. The Pavilion Chief is receiving important guests within the tent. Do not allow anyone to disturb him. All of you should pay a little more attention. Btth felt the cold wind before glancing at the experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion around and spoke in a deep voice. Understood. Everyone hurriedly replied upon hearing the order. Btth finally nodded with satisfaction upon seeing this. He was about to turn around and return to the tent when he suddenly frowned slightly. His eyes looked towards that mountain road that led down the mountaintop. There was vaguely some noise being transmitted from over that side. What happened? Btth frowned slightly and demanded. This, Northern Pavilion Chief, please calm your anger. This subordinate will go and take a look. An expert, whose strength had reached the strength of a Do Huang, moved his body and rushed towards the bottom of the mountain. Bang! This Wind Lightning Pavilion expert had just charged down the mountain when a muffled sound suddenly appeared before Btth could even recover. Immediately, a human figure was shot backwards while being accompanied by a miserable cry. Over a dozen tents collapsed along the way. Who dares to find trouble in the territory of my Wind Lightning Pavilion? Are you seeking death? This scene instantly caused many experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion on the top of the mountain to change. The expression of Btth also slowly turned gloomy. Capture them, dead or alive. Hearing the cry from Btth that contained a great fury, the many experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion also cried out furiously. Immediately, their figures flashed and they rushed down the mountain while accompanied by waves of rushing wind and fierce expressions. Btth also slowly took a step forward when he saw so many experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion attacking together. He would definitely teach that person who had caused trouble a good lesson after capturing him. Boom 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 boom. However, Btth had just took a step forward when a wave of low and deep flesh colliding sound suddenly appeared. Immediately, those Wind Lightning Pavilion's experts that had rushed down fiercely were sent flying back. Blood wildly spluttered as they heavily landed on the top of the mountain. Moans appeared continuously. This scene directly caused Btth's footstep to stiffen. A solemnness surged up his gloomy face. By being able to finish off all the numerous experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion with such swiftness, it was likely that the one who had come was not some weakling. May I know which friend has attacked? This is the campsite of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Hopefully, on account of the Wind Lightning Pavilion's face. Btth's eyes were focused on the mountain road as he spoke in a deep voice. Ha ha, Pavilion Chief Btth, we have not met for a couple of years but you still like to use the name of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Before Btth could finish his sentence, a laughter was slowly transmitted from below the mountaintop. Immediately, a large group of figures slowly appeared in Btth's sight. The young man leading them directly caused Btth's eyes to shrink abruptly. Xiao Yan? Seeing that face that left a deep impression in Xiao Yan's mind, a dark and chilly expression instantly surfaced on Btth's face. Back then, Xiao Yan had once caused him to lose his face. Even until now, that matter would occasionally be used as a joke by others. This caused the desire to kill Xiao Yan to become increasingly rich within Btth's heart. It was unexpected that he would meet Xiao Yan again in this place today. I thought who it was. It is actually the people from the Falling Star Pavilion who has just been chased away. Fei Tian glanced at Elder Hu and Elder Qi at the side. A ridicule flashed across his face as he spoke. You! The expressions of the two elders instantly turned green upon hearing those words. A fury surged within their eyes. If it was not because the two of them were no match for Fei Tian, it was likely that they would not be able to control themselves and attacked. Why? You have found some helpers and are prepared to get back at us? Fei Tian merely smiled when he saw this. The mockery in his smile grew denser. Although he was unable to see through Little Fairy Doctor's group, he did not treat them as elite Do Zuns. One was that the latter was too young, and the second was that his heart thought that Xiao Yan did not have the qualification to befriend Do Zuns given his ability. Fei Tian, resolve any trouble quickly. Do not disturb the pavilion chief's good mood. Two figures suddenly rushed out from within the tent. They immediately landed beside Fei Tian and spoke in a deep voice. Yes, I will leave the others to you. Leave Xiao Yan to me. I will let this brat properly return the debt from back then. Fei Tian revealed a ferocious expression and spoke in a low voice. Fei Tian did not wait for the response from the two others after uttering those words. Silver glow flashed under his feet and he actually disappeared into nowhere. A slight arc was lifted on Xiao Yan's calm face the moment Fei Tian disappeared. His foot took half a step forward. After which, his hand aimed at the space in front of him and clenched gently. After this hand was clenched, the space in front of Xiao Yan immediately converged in a lightning-like manner. A figure also appeared in the converged space. If one was to carefully look at it, it was surprisingly Fei Tian, who had just disappeared. However, the face of Fei Tian was currently already replaced by shock and terror. Using a hand to collapse space. This kind of ability, only an elite Do Zun could do this. Lei Zunjie, aren't you afraid of causing your Wind Lightning Pavilion to lose face by letting such little kitten and puppy come out? Xiao Yan did not even give Fei Tian a glance after having restrained the latter with a random palm. His eyes directly looked towards the tent and smiled slightly. After which, he flicked his finger. The chest of Fei Tian, who was within the converged space, was bent inwards by half an inch. A mouthful of fresh red blood shot out. His figure also flew backwards like a cannonball. After which, it violently smashed into the interior of the spacious tent in front of the shocked eyes of the two other Wind Lightning Pavilion's pavilion chiefs. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 308. Chapter 1237. Roll down, rip. Fei Tian violently shot into the interior of the tent like a cannonball. A fierce force exploded at this moment. One could hear a ripping sound and the tent was actually blasted into countless number of fragments that danced in the sky. It immediately fell slowly. Seeing that Xiao Yan was actually this ruthless in his attack, the surrounding experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion were also stunned. For an instant, no one actually dared to say anything. Young fellow, you are really bold. The tent was blasted apart. It appeared as though those within it were stunned by this action of Xiao Yan. A moment later, someone finally recovered. A furious roar that was filled with the desire to kill resounded over this entire sky. The current Bone Mountain range had already been filled by an endless sea of people. There were people everywhere. When Xiao Yan's group was charging over with surging killing intent, quite a number of people became aware that there was about to be a good show. Hence, rushing wind sound appeared in this entire sky the moment this roar sounded. In the blink of an eye, numerous figures had appeared in the sky around the mountain. The eyes of these people glanced onto the mountain top. After which, they saw the tent that was forcefully ripped apart. In an instant, a surprise surged within everyone's eyes. The Wind Lightning Pavilion could be considered to be quite a strong faction on the Central Plains. Otherwise, they would not possess the qualification to occupy a mountaintop as a campsite here. It was unexpected that there was actually someone who dared to openly attack. How could this not cause them to feel shock and curious? Xiao Yan ignored those observers that had suddenly appeared around the place. His eyes looked towards the part of the tent that had been broken. Lei Zunjie, whom he had met long ago, was currently standing with a gloomy face. At this moment, his hand was grabbing Fei Tian's robes. There were two old men in beast robes beside Lei Zunjie. However, these two people did not open their mouths at this moment. Instead, they chose to stand idly by the side and observe the situation. Grug. Fei Tian, who was in Lei Zunjie's hand, spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His dim eyes contained an expression of disbelief. The strength that Xiao Yan had displayed earlier had definitely reached the Do Zun class. Even though he had seen it with his own eyes, he was still unable to believe it. This younger generation whom he had chased until the point where the former could only hide like a mouse had currently reached the Do Zun class before him. Xiao Yan, you are really bold. Back then, this venerable self had let you off on account of Feng Zunjie. Yet, you actually dared to deliver yourself today? Lei Zunjie's face was dark and solemn. He slowly placed Fei Tian in his hand down. His low and deep thunder-like voice was filled with killing intent. The Wind Lightning Pavilion was used to being overbearing during these years. Currently, they were being bullied by a younger generation in such a place. If he let the matter today rest, he would really lose all of his face. Although he spoke in this manner with his mouth, the shock in Lei Zunjie's heart was currently not any less than Fei Tian. He was extremely clear about Xiao Yan's strength back then. The latter was merely a younger generation who had just advanced to the Do Zong class. At that time, the status of the latter in Lei Zunjie's heart was not much higher than that of an ant. Yet, within a short 2 to 3 years, the younger generation from back then had actually soared to the Do Zun class. Being an expert of the Do Zun class, Lei Zunjie naturally understood just how difficult it was to leap across this step. Fei Tian might currently be at the peak of the Do Zong class, but if he lacked the luck, it was not a rare occurrence for him to remain at that level forever. It was also because of the difficulty of taking this step that his heart would feel that shocked when he saw the current Xiao Yan for the first time. Lei Zunjie really knows how to joke. Back then, it is just that the skill of the Wind Lightning Pavilion disciple being inferior to others. It is completely unrelated to your magnanimity. Xiao Yan laughed softly. Back then, Lei Zunjie was an elite Do Zun whom he could not match in his eyes. Now, however, this high existence that he could not reach back then, was no longer even the least bit strong and mysterious in his heart. Lei Zunjie's face twitched. The fury within his eyes also became increasingly rich. He spoke in a dense manner. We have not met for a couple of years, but your tongue is still as sharp as ever. This venerable self shall advise you to leave as soon as possible. On the account of Feng Zunjie, this venerable self shall not make a fuss about this matter with you, this younger generation. Lei Zunjie has joked again. Your Wind Lightning Pavilion has attacked my Falling Star Pavilion in front of so many people. Could this also be because of Feng Zunjie's face? Xiao Yan laughed. That mocking tone also caused some laughter to appear around the mountain top. Lei Zunjie slowly clenched his fist. His eyes stared intently at Xiao Yan as he ended up laughing from extreme anger. Good, good. Looks like you have come prepared today. In that case, this venerable self shall see just what you, as someone who has just entered the Do Zun class, can do today. Nothing much. All I am going to do is to retrieve the Falling Star Pavilion campsite. Xiao Yan smiled slightly. He slowly stepped forward. Purple-brown flames slowly surged. The temperature of this entire place swiftly increased as the flame rose. In that case, we'll have to see whether you possess such qualification. Lei Zunjie laughed furiously. Bright silver lightning glow flickered over his body. Countless number of electric snakes danced. Looking from a distance, it appeared as though a thunder god had descended. His aura was extremely shocking. Seeing the atmosphere between the two swiftly becoming a tense sword-drawn one, the eyes of the many experts around also became fiery hot. A Do Zun class battle would be quite an interesting one. He, this Xiao Yan is really arrogant. He actually dares to oppose Lei Zunjie. Looks like he is here to find trouble. Earlier, the Wind Lightning Pavilion had forcefully chased the Falling Star Pavilion away and had even injured someone. I thought that the Falling Star Pavilion will definitely not just swallow this offense. It is unexpected that they have come so quickly. It is not so easy to find this trouble. This place not only have Lei Zunjie present. Moreover, have you seen the two old men beside Lei Zunjie? Those are the tribe leaders of the Earth Tiger tribe and the Silver Moon Wolf tribe. They are the subsidiary tribe of the Heaven Demon Phoenix. Given the relationship between the Wind Lightning Pavilion and the Heaven Demon Phoenix, do you think that the two of them will just stand idly by the side? 3 elite Do Zuns whose strength had reached the peak of 2 stars. This trouble is made of metal, however. This Xiao Yan's name is a little familiar. Damn it, how can it not be familiar? Isn't that the young alchemist who had become the champion of the pill gathering conducted by the pill tower? It is unexpected that he would actually appear in this place after disappearing for over a year. Xiao Yan acted as though he did not notice these surrounding eyes that had suddenly become fiery hot. Purple-brown flame rose on his body. Back then, the Dozun pressure that seemed undefeatable was currently unable to deter him by even a little. Ha ha, this young friend. The matter today is just a misunderstanding. The matter of the two friends from the Falling Star Pavilion is merely because Pavilion Chief Btth is too irritable and had accidentally hurt them when attacking. Moreover, Pavilion Chief Btth is currently injured by you. These matters can more or less make up for each other. Therefore, I will like to trouble young friend to stop on account of the Earth Tiger tribe and the Silver Moon Wolf tribe. What do you say? When the atmosphere became increasingly tense, an old man in tiger pattern robes, who had remained quiet by the side, finally laughingly said. The lightning glow on Lei Zunjie's body was withdrawn slightly when he heard the old man speak. He spoke faintly, since the tribe leader of the Earth Tiger tribe had opened his mouth. This venerable self will naturally give you face. This matter, since this old mister has put it this way, Lei Zunjie, please. Xiao Yan smiled slightly. He gently waved his hand and the Falling Star Pavilion disciples behind him formed a pathway that led to the foot of the mountain. The face of Lei Zunjie immediately became gloomy upon seeing this scene. The smile on the tiger-robed old man's face also solidified. He said, "This young friend, must you really do things in such an extreme manner?" The Wind Lightning Pavilion had destroyed the reputation of my Falling Star Pavilion in public. This old mister, are you intending to allow my face to carry this slap back to the Falling Star Pavilion? The smile on Xiao Yan's face was slowly withdrawn. A fierce glint flashed within his dark black eyes. Faced with this Xiao Yan, whose demeanor had suddenly become forceful, Lei Zunjie and the two beast-robed elders also had a slight change in their expressions. A chillness immediately surged in their eyes. Good fellow, you actually possess such boldness in the face of 3 Dozuns. You are indeed worthy of being the pill-gathering champion. Xiao Yan's sudden uncharacteristic slight smile and politeness also caused everyone to be shocked. Immediately, some low cheer sounded. I do not care about just how outstanding you are in the human world. However, this place is the beast region. It is not a place where you can behave atrociously. The tiger-robe old man's expression became icy cold as he spoke in a deep voice. Leave this place and we can let the matter rest. Otherwise, even if Feng Zunjie is here today, I will let you, this younger generation, understand just where is this place. The other silver-haired old man with brutal eyes also spoke in a dense manner. After his words sounded, 2 vast and mighty aura also suddenly surged out from within the bodies of those two. Immediately, it swept apart like a storm. It caused the expressions of those surrounding experts to change slightly. All of them hurriedly withdrew. 3 elite Dozuns stood tall on this mountaintop. That frightening pressure was just like a tall mountain that crushed onto Xiao Yan's group. Xiao Yan slowly exhaled a breath of air when faced with this frightening pressure. Immediately, he once again took 2 steps forward in front of everyone's eyes. His finger still continued to point towards the foot of the mountain. A low and deep voice resounded beside everyone's ears like a muffled thunder. This is the final time I'm saying this. Roll down from here or descend while lying down. Xiao Yan's icy cold voice slowly fell. 3 hidden frightening aura behind him also erupted without holding back at this moment. The appearance of these 3 auras had basically forcefully scattered the energy pressure that pounced over in an instant. Rumble. Faced with the sudden retaliation from such a frightening aura, the expressions of Lei Zunjie's group immediately changed. Their feet also hurriedly took 2 steps back. 4 Dozuns? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 309. Chapter 1238. Spatial Seal. 4 vast and mighty auras were entangled like an enormous dragon. The powerful pressure formed at that moment not directly shook Lei Zunjie trio until they took 2 continuous steps back, but the faces of those Wind Lightning Pavilion experts around them also became ghastly pale. Even their breathing had become heavy. Their eyes were also covered with shock. The majestic aura that suddenly erupted also stirred an uproar around the place. Everyone were stunned as they looked at Little Fairy Doctor's 3 people group, which was standing behind Xiao Yan. At this moment, they finally discovered that the three people, who kept an unusually low profile while quietly standing behind Xiao Yan, were actually also genuine Dozun class experts. In this way, if one included Xiao Yan himself, 4 elite Dozuns would have appeared on the Falling Star Pavilion's side. This kind of lineup was far from what the Wind Lightning Pavilion could compare with. Lei Zunjie's body quickly paused after having taken 2 steps back. His eyes contained a shocked expression as he looked at the 3 people behind Xiao Yan. Other than that unfamiliar-looking strong man, he discovered that the beautiful young lady and the old man beside her had actually reached the peak of the 3-star Dozun class. Such strength was definitely not any weaker than him. How is this possible? Since when did the Falling Star Pavilion possess so many elite Dozuns? A great storm brewed within Lei Zunjie's heart. Most of those which could become a renowned faction in the Central Plains did indeed possess some hidden foundation. However, it had also been some centuries since his Wind Lightning Pavilion had been founded. If one was to count, its history was even longer than that of the Falling Star Pavilion. Yet, the foundation to take out 3 Dozun class expert offhand was a little overly rich. Those 2 beast robe old men beside Lei Zunjie also had a slight change in expression at this moment. Finally, they began to felt that things were troublesome. 4 Dozuns. Even if one sum up the peak experts from both their clans, it was likely that they would not make such a figure. Under the pressure of this vast and mighty aura, the atmosphere on the mountaintop had also become a lot more constrained. The Wind Lightning Pavilion disciples, who were still proud earlier, were looking at each other at this moment. They did not dare to make any unusual movement. This friend, that old man in tiger robes, widened his mouth. He wanted to say something but could only wisely keep his mouth shut after seeing Xiao Yan's icy cold face. He turned his head and looked at the increasingly gloomy-looking Lei Zunjie beside him. In this current situation, it was obvious that the Wind Lightning Pavilion was at a disadvantage. It would be fine if they leave as soon as possible. Should a battle end up occurring and they were forcefully thrown out, they would only end up losing even more face. Lei Zunjie's expression was as deep as water. His eyes were staring intently at Xiao Yan. A moment later, he finally clenched his teeth and said, "Great brat. If I knew this back then, I would have personally killed you." Xiao Yan smiled slightly, ignoring this kind of hindsight that had occurred many years later. Go! That smile of Xiao Yan caused Lei Zunjie's heart to erupt into an endless fury after the latter saw it. However, in this current situation, he also understood that with the strength of Xiao Yan's group, it was sufficient to forcefully throw them down the mountain. A hero did not seek to suffer an obvious loss. The experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had yet to arrive. At that time, there would naturally be the opportunity for this little bastard to cry. Lei Zunjie waved his hand after forcefully suppressing the fury in his heart. After which, he walked towards the mountain road that led to the foot of the mountain with a gloomy expression. The many Wind Lightning Cloud disciples behind him also kept their tents in a depressed manner before following him like dogs that had lost their homes. Xiao Yan, it is too early for you to be happy. This venerable self will come and seek payment for the trouble today. Lei Zunjie paused and spoke in a dense low voice when he was passing by Xiao Yan. I will await you anytime. Xiao Yan smiled and said, Humph. Lei Zunjie's face twitched upon seeing this situation. He suddenly waved his sleeve and led the entire group away. A cheer immediately erupted amongst the disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion as they watched the miserable-looking Wind Lightning Pavilion disciples withdrawing from this place. Their eyes contained some additional respect when they looked at Xiao Yan. When their pride were stepped on by others, Xiao Yan had led them to regain their pride. At this moment, these disciples felt for the first time that the Falling Star Pavilion might become increasingly strong if they had such a junior pavilion chief. Hu, Mu Qing Luan, whose emotions had been tensed, also quietly sighed in relief. She secretly glanced at Xiao Yan by the side. This fellow was not even the least bit afraid even when faced an expert renown in the Central Plains like Lei Zunjie. This point was completely different from a couple of years ago. Set up the tents first. Xiao Yan smilingly said, Understood. The orders of Xiao Yan at this moment undoubtedly had some weight within the hearts of the Falling Star Pavilion's disciples. Hence, all the disciples from the Falling Star Pavilion responded in unison after hearing him speak. They immediately scattered and once again set up the tents. Seeing that this fight for a campsite on this mountaintop was finally over, those human figures in the surrounding sky finally shook their heads while not feeling satisfied. After which, they scattered. The big battle that they had anticipated the most did not erupt. This caused them to feel a little depressed. Xiao Yan, although we have frightened off the Wind Lightning Pavilion today, they will definitely be unwilling to crush their teeth and swallow them. Therefore, you should be careful. Mu Qing Luan reminded. Yes. Xiao Yan nodded slightly. He said, our main aim is the soul baby fruit. No matter what happens, we must obtain this thing. If the Wind Lightning Pavilion really wished to intervene, they should not blame us for being ruthless. Mu Qing Luan nodded slowly as she looked at the chillness flickering on the young face. She said, I'm not worried about the Wind Lightning Pavilion. This place is after all the Beast region. The Wind Lightning Pavilion has a good relationship with the Heaven Demon Phoenix. If they were to intervene at that time, we will deal with the situation accordingly when trouble arise. Even if today's event did not occur, the Heaven Demon Phoenix will still attack if they view me as an eyesore. Xiao Yan smiled randomly. He slowly walked to the edge of the mountaintop. His eyes were narrowed as he looked at the middle of the mountain range. That direction is the place where the ancient remains has appeared this time around. Xiao Yan nodded slightly. He could sense that there was some distorted arc in that space. Clearly, the owner had placed an extremely powerful barrier on the ancient remains. There are many dangers within this ancient remains. Quite a number of extremely powerful ancient puppets guards that place. Additionally, there are also some strange traps. Even an elite Dozun will not dare to be careless. Elder Hu, who was behind Xiao Yan, spoke respectfully. The ancient remains is hidden within a spatial seal. Every once in a while, some crack lines will appear on the spatial ripple. Quite a number of powerful people has barged in during this period of time. However, most of them ended up escaping miserably from it. Oh! Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows. It seemed that this ancient remains must still not be underestimated despite it having experienced such a great amount of time. However, no elite Dozuns has entered it up till now. This spatial seal possessed a restriction ability. If an elite Dozun tries to forcefully enter, it will trigger an extremely powerful seal backlash. A seal that is placed by an elite Do Sheng is not something that an ordinary Dozun would dare to test with his body despite the seal having experienced countless amount of time. No Dozuns has entered? Xiao Yan frowned immediately when he heard this. Did that not mean that he was also unable to enter? KK, Junior Chief need not be worried. This seal is already extremely thin. At the very most, the seal will gradually scatter after a few more days. Without the defense of the seal, elites Dozuns will also be able to safely enter it. Currently, there are quite a number of elite Dozuns around the ancient remains who are waiting for this moment. Elder Hu fondled his beard and smilingly explained. Xiao Yan sighed in relief only after hearing this. His eyes swept over the surrounding lush green mountains. With his sharp spiritual perception, he could indeed sense some extremely vague majestic aura. A surprise involuntarily flashed across his eyes at this moment. It was indeed worthy of being in ancient remains. This many elite Dozuns were actually attracted by it. It appeared that a bloody fight would be unavoidable in this remains battle. Did you discover anyone from the Hall of Souls? A thought suddenly passed through Xiao Yan's heart as he asked. Elder Hu frowned slightly upon hearing this. He voiced his thoughts. I have not seen them until now. However, those fellows are usually strange and unpredictable. Even if they have come, it is likely that the two of us will not be able to discover them. However, based on the guess of the old me, the rumors about this ancient remains is spread quite widely. The Hall of Soul will likely also intervene. However, we do not know just how many experts has come. Xiao Yan smiled slightly and nodded. A chillness flashed across his eyes. The ones whom you need to be worried about in this Bone Mountain range is not the Hall of Soul. Being the owners of this place, the 9 serene deep ground python are the most troublesome to deal with. Not only did these fellows possess a large number, but there are many experts amongst them. Even the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe is unwilling to exchange blows with them. However, I feel that things are a little strange. This place can be considered the territory of the 9 serene deep ground python tribe. Given their character, they actually did not choose to seal off the mountain range. Instead, they had allowed this news to spread. Mu Qing Luan softly spoke in a somewhat doubtful manner. 9 serene deep ground python. Xiao Yan muttered to himself. He also nodded slightly. By being able to become one of the 3 great tribes of the magical beast world, this 9 serene deep ground python was definitely not an ordinary faction. Currently, the 9 serene deep ground python tribe is unable to even take care of themselves. Where would they find the effort to come and manage this ancient remains? Elder Hu shook his head and laughed when he heard this. Unable to take care of themselves? What has happened? Mu Qing Luan asked in surprise. I am also not certain about this. However, from the information that we have inquired, some of the experts from the 9 serene deep ground python tribe has disappeared in a baffling manner recently. An elite Dozun from the 9 serene deep ground python tribe is included amongst these missing experts. Currently, they are crazily searching for the murderer. The thing that is really unbelievable is that the one who has attacked the 9 serene deep ground python tribe is actually alone. Elder Hu fondled his beard and sighed. The expressions of Xiao Yan and Mu Qing Luan were that of being shocked upon hearing these words. Just who was this strong person who actually dared attack the 9 serene deep ground python tribe? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 310. Chapter 1239. Black Shadow Person. Elder Hu smiled as he looked at the surprised expression of Xiao Yan and Mu Qing Luan. He said, "This matter has caused an uproar all over the place recently. Many people were very curious just what kind of great being that murderer is. He actually dares to attack the 9 serene deep ground python, the local ruler of this beast region. It was really touching, something that one should not touch." Xiao Yan nodded slightly. By being able to become one of the 3 great tribes in the magical beast world, it was sufficient to indicate the strength of the 9 serene deep ground python tribe. As the saying went, a powerful dragon did not suppress the local snake. Even the renowned great factions on the Central Plains would give the 9 serene deep ground python tribe some face in this place. Unless one's mind was a little mad, otherwise, one would not easily offend them. It was also because of this that Xiao Yan would feel so surprised when he heard that there was actually someone who was finding trouble with the 9 serene deep ground python in the Bone Mountains. Perhaps it is just some enemies from the past. Mu Qing Luan hesitated before commenting. Who knows, if it is an enemy, he would definitely eradicate the 9 serene deep ground python tribe. However, from the rumors that had spread during this period of time, the opponent of that fellow was completely the strongest experts within the 9 serene deep ground python. The lives of some of the weaker ones were not taken even when they met that mysterious killer. Elder Hu laughed bitterly. He was also extremely confused about this strange tactic of the mysterious killer. Xiao Yan also frowned slightly upon hearing this. This person was indeed quite strange. As the saying went, it is easy to pinch a soft persimmon. However, this person did things in an opposite fashion. He purposefully found the troublesome opponents. Was this not trying to make things difficult for himself? Those 9 serene deep ground python experts who had met that mysterious killer had all disappeared without exception. It was impossible to even find their corpse. This was the aspect that caused the 9 serene deep ground python tribe to panic a little. The most important thing of a tribe was its bloodline. No one knew if that mysterious killer is preparing for something by gathering so much 9 serene deep ground python blood. Elder Hu said, "Forget it. This matter is unrelated to us. Let's quietly stay on this mountaintop for these few days and constantly monitor the activity of the ancient remains. Additionally, tell everyone not to walk around the place. The Bone Mountain Range is currently very chaotic. It would be troublesome if some matter is created." Xiao Yan mused for a moment. After failing to gain any conclusion, he could only shake his head. His thoughts were turned away from this matter as he opened his mouth and said, "Understood." Elder Hu hurriedly replied in a respectful voice when he heard this. "Next, we shall wait for the ancient remains to open." Xiao Yan's eyes leapt over the many mountain tops, looked towards the somewhat distorted space at the middle of the mountain range and softly muttered. After driving away the people from the Wind Lightning Pavilion, Xiao Yan's group settled down and set up tent on this mountain top once again. During the subsequent few days, the disciples from the Falling Star Pavilion had obeyed Xiao Yan's orders. None of them left the mountain top. They spent their day training and sparring. In any case, the size of the mountain top was quite large. It was sufficient for their activities. During this quiet wait, Xiao Yan's group was also able to discover that the number of experts gathering at this Bone Mountain range was also increasing. At the end, this entire mountain range was still lively even deep in the night. The noise directly charged to the clouds. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye amidst this kind of weight. During these 3 days, the Wind Lightning Pavilion, which was thrust away in a miserable manner, did not come and seek trouble. Although Xiao Yan's group understood that Lei Zun-Jie would definitely not be able to easily swallow this anger, he was at the very least aware that before he possessed the strength to defeat 4 Dozuns, he would not foolishly come and seek his own humiliation. Everyone had been passing these 3 days on the mountaintop. They did not disturb anyone, nor did anyone disturb them. The laid-back waiting was undoubtedly much better than the surrounding mountain range that was filled with fiery hot conflict. With the gradual passage of the 3 days, the distorted space within the middle of the mountain range also became increasingly thin. Clearly, the spatial seal that had existed for countless number of years was about to disappear. The thinning seal also caused the atmosphere of the entire mountain range to become unusually fiery hot. Under the allure of the ancient remains, it appeared that everyone was much more hot-tempered. Even the slightest conflict would immediately be escalated to a life-and-death battle. Based on the rate at which the seal was changing, the seal would completely disappear in at the very most 2 days' time. At that time, the ancient remains that had existed for countless number of years would be once again revealed in this world. The night was as cool as water. The icy cold moonlight scattered down from the sky and shone onto the well-lit mountain range. It added a layer of mysterious yarn over the entire mountain range. Xiao Yan was seated on a large rock at the edge of the mountaintop. From this spot, he was coincidentally able to overlook more than half of the mountain range. He could still see quite a number of human figures and torchlight flashing at the foot of the mountain. Xiao Yan raised his head and looked at the bright moon in the sky. His mind became a little absent-minded. An elegant and beautiful fit-looking figure vaguely appeared in front of him, appearing just like the fairy in the moon. Xuan-Er. Wait for me. Once I have resolved the issue of teacher's body, I will begin traveling to the Gu clan. Xiao Yan's fist was clenched slowly. A determination flashed across his eyes. Regardless of just how mysterious and powerful the Gu clan was, it would definitely not hinder he and Xuan-Er from being together. The current Xiao Yan could already be truly considered as a top-tier expert in the Do-Chi continent. It was difficult for him to find any opponents from the same age group. With this hard work and achievement, he believed that he would definitely not lose even when faced with those young outstanding individuals from the Gu clan, who possessed the bloodline of a Do-Di. Xiao Yan gently exhaled a breath. That graceful figure in his mind suddenly fluctuated without any warning. Immediately, a bewitching icy cold pretty face suddenly appeared. Kai Lin. A complicated bitter smile surfaced on Xiao Yan's face as a beautiful and alluring face flashed across his mind. He softly muttered, I wonder, that child in her womb, has she been born? The moment he thought of this, Xiao Yan felt as though a tight string deep within his heart had been touched. Unexpectedly, the current him was soon about to become a father. He wondered if his father would wear his happiness on his brows if he was aware of this. Kai. A slight sound of wind being split suddenly resounded in the night sky while Xiao Yan was feeling absent-minded. This sound might be faint, but it was still sensed by Xiao Yan, who had an extremely sharp awareness. Immediately, he turned his head and saw a black figure diving down from the night sky like an old eagle. Both of this person's hands were placed together and a tent emitted a sound of being burst apart. After the tent burst apart, it revealed Zi Yan, who was in a deep sleep within it. However, the latter's perception was quite strong. She suddenly widened her eyes just when the tent was torn apart. A shock was felt when she looked at the black shadow pouncing over. Subsequently, she swiftly withdrew with her small feet. Who are you, thief? Xiao Yan was startled. A fury immediately surged up his eyes. His hand slammed the large rock under his body. After which, his body flew out like a large bird and pounced towards the black shadow person. When Xiao Yan approached, he began to gradually realize that the size of the black shadow was clearly delicate and small. One could even vaguely see some curves formed by her clothes. It indicated her background. A ferocious ghost-like mask was worn on her face, causing her to appear exceptionally mysterious. That black shadow appeared as though she did not hear Lin Dong's cry. A strange green light was suddenly erupted from under the ghost mask. This green light flashed and shone onto the face of Ziyan, who was pulling back. Ziyan felt her sight become blurry when the light shone over. Even her mind had become a little absent-minded. Roar! A purple chi suddenly surged over her face while Ziyan's mind was absent-minded. A half-a-foot-long purple dragon surfaced. Immediately, it curled and rose while roaring furiously towards the sky. The dragon roar rose in a majestic manner and the green light collapsed almost instantly. Oh! Why is it not a snake? That black shadow with a ghost mask was immediately stunned when she saw the purple dragon on Ziyan's face. Immediately, a slight dumbfounded voice sounded. Bang! The three tents around the entire place immediately burst apart while the black shadow was startled. Little Fairy Doctor, Tianhuo Zunjie and Shangzan flashed and appeared. They saw the black shadow person attacking Ziyan with a glance. All of their expressions immediately changed slightly. Watch after Ziyan, Xiaoyan cried out in a deep voice. His body moved and he appeared in front of the black shadow person. He clenched his hand and the purple-brown flame was agglomerated into a large hand that violently slammed towards the latter's head. The black shadow figure hurriedly withdrew when faced with this ferocious attack by Xiaoyan. An unusual green glow flashed under the ghost mask. It easily received the large fire hand. Immediately, the figure moved and swiftly rushed out of the mountain top. Clearly, she was also aware that it was pointless to stay any longer. You wish to leave? Xiaoyan's face sunk when he saw this. This person was too unusual. Moreover, her target was clearly Ziyan. If he did not capture and interrogate her, there would definitely be much trouble in the future. Silver light flashed under Xiaoyan's feet while this thought flashed across his heart. After which, it swiftly chased that black shadow person. His body moved and he appeared on the latter's head. Flame spread over his fist as it was once again violently smashed down. Upon sensing the fierce wind that erupted over from above her head, the green light under the ghost mask of the black shadow person once again flashed. Immediately, a strong black shadow suddenly appeared behind her in a strange fashion. Dark black water covered the fist of this figure as it immediately threw a violent punch that collided with the fire punch of Xiaoyan. Bang! A frightening storm spread when the two fists collided. Xiaoyan's body shook and he took a couple of steps back. That strong human figure took 2 continuous steps back before his body shook and once again disappeared in a strange manner. By the time Xiaoyan had recovered, that black shadow person had already rushed into the vast deep mountains. With the cover from the night, she disappeared within the blink of an eye. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 311. Chapter 1240. Opening of the remains. Xiaoyan was suspended in the night sky. His eyes looked towards the spot where the black shadow had disappeared towards. He frowned slightly. This person did not directly exchange blows with him. Therefore, he was unable to probe the other party's strength. However, that unusual green light caused him to feel some danger. I wonder where this person has come from. Why did she attack Ziyan? Xiaoyan softly muttered to himself. Currently, an increasing number of experts were attracted to the ancient remains. There was an unknown number of hidden experts amongst them. It seemed that they really needed to be careful during this trip. Kai! A couple wind-splitting sounds suddenly appeared while Xiaoyan was in deep thought. Immediately, a couple of figures swiftly rushed over. Their bodies paused when they were passing by. Their sharp eyes swept over Xiaoyan. There is the aura from that person here. Do we need to bring these people back for interrogation? The few figures paused. A fierce-looking young man's nose twitched slightly. His eyes contained a fierce glint as he suddenly looked towards Xiaoyan and said. Xiaoyan's eyes carefully observed these 4 people, who had appeared. All of their auras were quite strong. 3 amongst them had reached the peak of the Dozong class. The one leading them was already in the Dozun class. An obvious dark and chilly aura lingered over them, causing one to be afraid of sliding them. Members of the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe? Xiaoyan swept his eyes before pausing them on the special vertical pupils of these people. He narrowed his eyes as he muttered to himself within his heart. That scent has fled into the mountain forest. It is likely that she has exchanged blows with this person. The gray-robed old leader glanced at Xiaoyan in a hesitant manner. He could sense that the latter was also an elite Dozun. It was best not to cause any additional trouble at this moment. Hence, he shook his head and directly turned his eyes towards the mountain forest, where the black shadow had disappeared towards. He waved his hand and said, "Chase." He took the lead to move after uttering those words. His body transformed into a black shadow that rushed towards the forest. The three large men, with a murderous aura all over their bodies, closely followed from behind. The tribe members of the 9 serene deep-ground python are a little overbearing. Xiao Yan sent off this group with his eyes while laughing coldly within his heart. If his strength was a little weaker today, it was likely that these people would really choose to bring him back first before talking. Looks like the black shadow person from earlier should be the mysterious person who has turned the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe upside down recently. However, why would she attack Ziyan? Xiao Yan mused for a moment while carrying this doubt within his heart. After which, he turned around and returned to the mountain top. At this moment, everyone on the mountain top had already been awakened due to the unexpected situation from earlier. Little Fairy Doctor's group hurriedly went forward to meet Xiao Yan upon seeing the latter's return. Xiao Yan landed and explained the matter earlier. Everyone had stunned faces when they heard that the attacker earlier was the mysterious killer who had caused an uproar recently. Doesn't that fellow purposefully target the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe? Why has she suddenly placed her focus on Ziyan? Little Fairy Doctor knitted her brows slightly and softly asked. Xiao Yan also shook his head. He glanced at Ziyan and laughed. Perhaps the other party has treated this girl as a 9 serene deep-ground python. Pooh! Who would be those smelly large snakes? Ziyan curled her mouth. She immediately rubbed her brows and a solemn expression flashed across her small face. She said, "When the green light from that fellow shone over earlier, I feel like I was almost controlled by it. However, it is fortunate that I have the protection from my bloodline. Even though I will not be completely controlled by her, I will still lose my defensive ability for a short period of time." Xiao Yan's group was clearly startled when they heard these words. Ziyan had merely come into a single contact with the black shadow person earlier. Yet she was actually nearly controlled by the other party? This person is really strange. She is actually able to control one's mind. Since when did such a mysterious expert appear in the Central Plains? Why have I never heard of such a person before? Tianhuo Zun frowned and said, "Damn it, I will definitely burst her head the next time the old me meet her. If anything happened to this little grandaunt, the old me will also get into trouble." Shangzan cursed. Xiao Yan revealed an expression of deep thought. He exchanged looks with Little Fairy Doctor and softly said, "Ziyan should avoid running around during this period of time. She will follow beside us. This person is too strange. Moreover, she has an unknown origin. We must not allow her to gain any opportunity. Based on my guess, those experts from the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe, who had disappeared, have likely been controlled by her." What? Everyone's faces paled from shock when these words sounded. There were some Dozun class experts from amongst those 9 serene deep-ground python experts that had disappeared. If that person was even able to control a Dozun, that would be a little too terrifying. Originally, I am able to stop her. However, an elite Dozun has stopped me at the critical moment. That elite Dozun's Do-Chi is tilted towards the dark and chilly side. It is similar to the expert from the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe earlier. Therefore, Xiao Yan voiced his thoughts. This kind of ability to control others is something that I have never heard before. Even some of those sonic Do technique that could confuse one's mind would have difficulty completely controlling an elite Dozun. Little Fairy Doctor shook her head and said. Xiao Yan also nodded. This world was indeed filled with mysteries. It was likely that the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe would suffer greatly by provoking such a mysterious person. Everyone should be more careful during these few days. The ancient remains will open the day after tomorrow. At that time, we will enter it at the earliest possible time. Otherwise, things will be troublesome if the soul baby fruit ends up being taken by someone first. Xiao Yan looked all around him and spoke in a deep voice. Understood. Everyone replied in Yuzhen upon hearing this. After that night's chaos, no other unexpected situation occurred. The sea of people on the Bone Mountain Range multiplied. The noise similar charge into the clouds. Countless number of people were waiting for the ancient remains to open. 2 days quietly flowed by like the sand between one's fingers amidst this anticipation from the tens of thousands of gazes. By the time a ray of morning light scattered down from the sky and broke through the darkness covering the mountain range 2 days later, the mountain range, which had become a little quiet, had basically erupted into an earth-shaking liveliness in an instant. Rushing wind sound appeared from all directions. Numerous human figures rushed towards the middle of the mountain range like locusts. Xiao Yan's group on the mountaintop was also fully prepared. Due to the entry into the ancient remains being too dangerous, only Xiao Yan's small group would be entering it. The disciples from the Falling Star Pavilion and the 2 elders would remain here and wait for them. Although many felt regretful at not being able to enter this rarely seen ancient remains, no one objected to Xiao Yan's order. Currently, the latter had gradually established his own prestige within the Falling Star Pavilion. Xiao Yan stood at the side of the mountain top and looked at the human figures from all directions. He involuntarily shook his head. It was unexpected that this ancient remains actually had such a frightening attraction. "Let's go." Xiao Yan did not hesitate much. He waved his hand and his body took the lead to transform into a ray of light that rushed towards the middle of the mountain range. Little Fairy Doctor and the rest followed closely behind him. At this moment, a liveliness that was quite shocking had undoubtedly erupted in the Bone Mountain range. The origin of these life force was the countless number of human figures flying in the air. Under this kind of frightening atmosphere, even the kind of dark and cold aura unique to the Bone Mountain range had been forcefully diminished. With Xiao Yan's exceptional perception, he could sense those vague aura around the mountain range, which had been silent for a long time, beginning to move at this moment. They turned into numerous rays of light that hurried to the mountain top. This ancient remains is truly going to have an intense fight. Even Xiao Yan involuntarily sighed softly upon sensing the strength of these aura. The difficulty of trying to successfully obtain the Tien-class Do technique in front of these many experts was quite large. It was not difficult to imagine just what kind of earth-shaking bloody battle would erupt in this Bone Mountain range in order to obtain the Tien-class Do technique. The mountain peak that Xiao Yan's group was at was already near the middle of the mountain range. Hence, after a mere couple of minutes, a distorted space appeared in front of their group's eyes. Xiao Yan's body moved as he watched the distorted space a short distance in front of him. He landed on a gigantic tree. After sweeping his eyes, he finally realized that this place had a 500-kilometer large basin. However, the current basin had already been filled by countless number of dense bones. Looking from a distance, the sea of dense white bones appeared quite glaring. It caused one to feel as though one's pores would stand. At this moment, some densely packed human figures stood around the sea of bones. Numerous heated eyes stared intently at the distorted space within the sea of bones. Once that spatial seal disappeared, countless number of people would surge in continuously like a great wave. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the surrounding sea of people. After which, it paused over some areas. His eyes were a little solemn. After a brief glance, he discovered that there were at least 5 elite 3-star Do Zun. A Tien-class Do technique does indeed possess an endless allure. Even elite Do Zuns are unable to withstand this allure. Xiao Yan sighed softly in his heart. He also possessed some desire towards the Tien-class Do technique. However, he also understood within his heart just how difficult it was to successfully snatch the Tien-class Do technique from this kind of place. The possessor of it would be a magnet for trouble. Even if an elite Do Zun was to obtain the Tien-class Do technique, whether he could successfully leave this Bone Mountain range would also be a question. I wonder whether my Annihilation Lotus Flame or the Tien-class Do technique is stronger? Xiao Yan blinked his eyes. A curiosity also rose within his heart. Bang! This entire sky suddenly erupted into a slight ripple while Xiao Yan was quietly thinking within his heart. The eyes of countless number of people suddenly turned towards the sea of bones. Some ripples had already been formed in the space there. The ancient remains was finally going to see the light of day again. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.